Organization role and responsibilities. As a part of the CISSP exam, you will be expected to understand the different roles and responsibilities within an organization, and that has to do with a lot of different things. That has to do with who comes up with the business strategies, who comes up with the goals and the objectives, who comes up with the security objectives and things like that. And it's really important because these are real world things to understand within an organization. So there are often four main roles and responsibilities, and yes, you can break this down a little bit further, but really there are four main categories, starting with executive role and responsibilities. We also have security roles and responsibilities, which is our primary focus here, and then the data role and responsibilities, and also system role and responsibilities. The most important takeaway from this to understand that we all have to work together in order to make the business or the organization successful. We all have to help each other, and we also need to understand where our responsibility begins and where they end, and that way we can work together as a team to execute the business functions. Let's talk about the executive role and responsibilities, starting with very top, the chief executive officer or the CEO. They are responsible for everything related to the organization, everything that includes security. They are responsible for security to ensure that it's implemented, to assure that it meets the business objective, and also to ensure that it meets industry regulation, compliance requirement, and all those different things. They are where the buck stops. So the CEO is responsible for everything. They will plan and execute the organization missions and the visions, whatever the objectives are in terms of what the business is supposed to generate, what it is supposed to create. They are responsible for personal, finance, you name it, they are responsible for everything. Now, the most of the time, depending on your organization, of course, but most of the time the CEO is going to delegate or designate responsibility to other people, and that's why you have different role and responsibilities. After all, if you had to do all of the work, security and business and finance and all that, that would be a really long day. So we want to give those responsibilities to other people who specialize in these areas, so that they can help the business to more effective, leaving the CEO time to concentrate on mission and vision and execution. So let's talk about the terms of finance. Well, you would allocate the responsibility to chief financial officer. They are responsible for everything related to the organizational finance, asset and other things. They are going to support the CEO in executing the organization mission and vision, but they are mainly focused on financial aspects. Anything that has to do with asset and liabilities, purchase, divestment, debentures, investment, whatever it is, and they are responsible for accounting, payroll, all those different things. And of course, they are going to allocate their responsibilities down to other parties as well. You also have on the IT side of a house, the information technology side of the house, you have the CIO or the chief information officer. This person is an executive level IT officer that's responsible for the vision and strategy of the organizational information system. What normally happen is you are going to appoint somebody to execute all of the technological aspect of the business, whether it's cloud computing, whether it's virtualization, whether it's on-premises servers and workstation, whatever that might be. And the CEO will often appoint someone to conduct security training and education, identify common security controls for the organization, help other officials with the security planning, and so on. And that often create the role we call CISO, or the Chief Information Security Officer. If that role exists in an organization, because it doesn't always exist, if it does, the person is primarily responsible for the vision and the strategy of the organization security program. They are going to develop system security from the top down. They are going to designate somebody to develop security programs and planning, which we will talk about here in a second. Also, we are talking about governance, regulation and compliance, GRC as well, and they are also going to make sure that all of the security personnel have the adequate resources that are necessary, to include allocating budgets, which means CISO would be working with the CFO in order to allocate budget to purchase asset and other things. So again, you can start to see how this role and responsibilities are going to start working together. You have what's called a board of a committee. These boards and committees will also work on specialized tasking like task force or smaller teams, what we call tiger team. Sometimes we call them trade study team, whatever that might be, where they might go off and work on a specialty task that the organization is looking at. For example, maybe your organization looking up to go into cloud computing, move from on-premises to off-premises cloud computing. Now you are going to need a team to go off and see how much is this going to cost, how many resources do we need, how many personal bodies is this going to take, and so on and so forth. And they come back to board of committee with a decision to say, let's keep going with this, or hey, let's table this and do this another time. So that's what a board or committee would do. And that take us to the security roles, which is what we are obviously most interested in. The first and foremost role you definitely need to know is a security manager. You might also hear this called an ISSM, or Information System Security Manager. Regardless of what the title is, the manager is responsible for developing and managing security programs and personnel involved. Whenever you see any question on the exam or any conversation on the exam about assessment report, a risk analysis report, a vulnerability assessment report, the target audience is normally the security manager. They are the one who have the subject matter expertise to work with raw result and come out of the report and other things and change them or morph them into language that the executive can understand. That's why we call it an executive summary report. Oftentimes, because executives like board or committees, they don't know anything about penetration testing. They don't know anything about vulnerability assessment, or hey, this is a zero-day vulnerability we just discovered and we have to got to go. So they don't know anything about the stuff. So your security manager is going to responsible for the piece. They are also going to be the liaising between security and executive leadership as well. They are going to create the information security program in line with the organizational strategy. They are going to work directly with the CIO, the CISO, the CFO, and even the CEO on the security strategies, and also budgeting, personnel and other things. You are also going to have a security officer or an information system security officer or ISSO. They are responsible to implement and maintain the information security strategy or program. As you can see, the manager is going to delegate the responsibility down to the officer. So whatsoever been decided at the upper level security officer, you are responsible to build security into the system the way that executive management wants it done. So they also coordinate system changes, maintenance, patching, upgrades and things like that to ensure the confidentiality, integrity and availability are not impacted as a part of the process. We also have security analysts. They detect, analyze and respond to security threats and potential attacks. So really the analyst role is to analyze a lot of data that is coming from the system in terms of audit logs, system logs and other things. Whether it's coming from institution detection device, whether it's coming from endpoint security and all these things what we are going to talk about throughout the entire training. Their job is to analyze that output. So then you have the engineers. They are pretty much responsible to design, test and implement security solutions. Security engineers will draft and derive security solution requirement. They are going to research and design security solution, integrate security solution into existing system architecture, and also install, implement and test security solution. Now keep it in mind that these are just general roles and responsibility. This role and responsibility might change depending on your organization. Now that take us to the data role and responsibilities. These three are very important to know for the exam, to spend some time and really understand these three roles. Starting with data owner. The data owner is responsible for the classification and protection of their data. The data owner can truly be any other role. It could be a CEO, it could be CEO is the data owner, it could be CIO is the data owner, or it could be somebody else, just a random person who's been allocated to be the data owner. And that means they are responsible to clearly understand the impact of the data that they are responsible for and provide the proper level of security protection for the particular data. You also have the data custodian. They are responsible for implementing data protection. Think of the custodian as a keyboard level executive. Okay, they are the one that are configuring the system to best protect the device. And then we also have called data steward. They provide subject matter expertise for specific data. For example, would a CEO of a company know how to protect human resource information? Probably not, because they are not in a tune with privacy law and patent the personal identification information or personal health information or protected health information, things like that. Maybe even GDPR protected information. A CEO often will not know that. So they will employ a data steward or a subject matter expert that knows everything about the particular data type to tell the CEO what they need to do. Hey, this is human resource information, it's also PII or PI data. What that means is this is protected by law. We need to implement the proper protection, and then the CEO or whoever, maybe the CIO or the board or the committee, will say, sure, sounds good, go with it. And then the steward will start working with the data custodian and also the data owner to come up with the protection that are needed for the data. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, these three roles are vital for the CISSP. Make sure you clearly understand them. Data owner is responsible for the classification and protection, which means they are going to say, is it sensitive? Is it top secret? Is it confidential? Is it a trade secret? The custodian, the keyboard level implementation, configuring the system to protect the data, and the data steward is providing subject matter expertise and advice to the data owner and the data custodian. Now that takes us to the system role, which is our administrator, our system administrator, our network administrator. The most important thing to understand about this role is these are privileged personnel. They have privilege level access. Oftentimes administrator and root level privilege, so they have full control of the system and they are responsible for implementing and maintaining the information system. Oftentimes they are often responsible for implementing security as well. They will become the data custodian. We also have auditor who are responsible for auditing compliance with security policy. Sometimes they also audit performance of other metrics in the system. But in this term of CISSP, we are talking about security auditors. These are system level roles because these folks are going to be at the system level, oftentimes working directly with administrator to walk them through how to find certain configuration and what data is being stored and so on. And then we have the users. They are just going to use the system. They are going to consume the data or the information that being produced by the system. These are a lot of different role and responsibilities. So let's look at how this kind of stack up. Again, we have the executive level role. This is very top of the organization where everything flows. Your CEO, CFO, your CIO and CISO. These are also called executive officers of company officers. Then we have the security level or security manager, the security officer and the security engineer and or analyst. Then we have our data level role with our owner, our custodian, our steward and Then we have our administrator and auditors as well as users. And one thing I want to note on this chart is the reason it all start with the executive role is the where responsibility, accountability and authority will start, and it works its way all the way down to the system level. So the big takeaway, the bottom line of this, you need to understand each of this role and responsibility for the exam.